Hi everyone, it's Phil Frost from Main Street ROI, and I want to welcome you to today's training about the 10 costly Google AdWords mistakes to avoid. We'll start with housekeeping. I recommend everyone post questions as they pop up in your head. You can post those questions to the Q&A section in the GoToWebinar window. I see Dave figured out how to do that. Good morning, Dave. And for everyone else, if you could, Dave mentioned he's dialing in from Seattle. If everyone else could do a test to make sure you know where the questions box is, if you just mention where you're calling in from. And to kick things off, I will let you know I'm dialing in from our office in New York City. We're on 23rd and 6th Ave. All right, I see lots of people chiming in here. We've got Vicky from Illinois, John from Sharon, Pennsylvania, Elizabeth calling in from Indianapolis. Elizabeth, are you sitting next to Leah from Indianapolis as well? Linda from Paso Robles. All right, this is a long list. I will stop there. Looks like everyone figured out. Oh, you even got some Canadians. Welcome. Oh, that's interesting. So Leah is not sitting next to Linda. You guys are both calling in from Indianapolis. All right. I always like to recommend everyone turn off distractions. You'll get the most out of this if you're not trying to also get through the emails that piled up over the weekend or scroll through your Facebook news feed, getting all your political information. And I also have a poll here, or a couple polls, just to see who's on the line. So you should see on your screen a question: are you currently advertising with Google AdWords? And the vast majority, it looks like, is advertising. We've got about 88% yes. Still bouncing around quite a bit here. We've got 68% who have voted. I think that's good enough. I'll close it out. Just over 71%. 86% said yes, 18% are not yet advertising. And this is going to be a good presentation, whether you're advertising or you're about to get started. And next question here you should see is, what's your current or anticipated monthly ad budget? And it looks like about half, less than $1,000, about 30%, $1,000 to $5,000, 3% are in the 5 to 10K range. I'm surprised to see 18% in the 10 to 50K range. It's a pretty big account, and about 2% over 50K. And it looks like most people have voted. I'm going to close that out. And just one more question, we're going to move on here. Are you managing your ads in-house or with an agency? And the third option is that you are, in fact, an agency or a consultant. And Juliet, I see you're not a Canadian, you're English, but we actually have a lot of people dialing in from Canada here. Ken and Jessica from Quebec. So you are not alone, Juliet. Okay, looks like 74% voted here. I'm going to close that out. And we've got 63% managing in-house, 13% using an agency, and then 25% of attendees here are an agency or a consultant. All right, thanks for filling that out. We will get started here. This is going to be good for regardless of whether you're doing this in-house with an agency or you are an agency, you'll get some good advice here. Here's what we're going to cover. Obviously, the 10 common AdWords mistakes to avoid, and we'll take that a step further and actually talk about how to avoid these mistakes. As always, we have a special offer for attendees right before the live Q&A. And if this is your first training with Main Street ROI, probably wondering, who am I? Why should you listen to me? Again, my name is Phil Frost. I'm the founder of Main Street ROI, and our business provides digital marketing services like Google AdWords management. We also manage Bing ads and Facebook ads. We also provide SEO and email marketing services. In addition to the services side, we also do a lot of training, like this training we're doing today. We do a lot of free webinars, at least one a month. We publish a lot of free information on our blog and our email newsletter. And then we have paid courses. You can go to mainstreetroi.com/training and learn more about our more in-depth paid courses on different marketing tactics. Over the years, we've helped over 2,000 businesses with their digital marketing, and my thought leadership has been featured in Forbes, Inc., Amex, as well as Mashable. This is my favorite slide. I need to get this updated. This is actually getting pretty old. I'm also the proud father of these cute kids here. We've got Violet on the left. She's going to be 5 years old, January 2nd. That's my chubby son, who's unfortunately home sick today. That's Emmett. He's just over 2.5. And believe it or not, we just got a scale in our house. They weigh nearly the same, which is kind of crazy. She's almost 5 and he's only 2.5. He is definitely chubby. And that's my beautiful wife, Erin, in the middle. And we live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. All right, so let's dive into the 10. What I should have said here is the most common Google AdWords mistakes to avoid. And we do a lot of AdWords reviews, audits, assessments, whatever you want to call it, where we go through an AdWords account and we have a checklist to identify potential problems or identify areas to get better performance. And the vast majority of the time when we do some kind of audit like this, we will find at least one of these mistakes, if not multiple. Mistake number 1, targeting the search network and the display network at the same time. And if you're new to Google AdWords, you might be wondering, what the heck does that mean? Well, with Google AdWords, there's 2 very distinct networks. There's more than this, but as kind of a high-level overview, there's the search network. That's where people are going to google.com and literally searching for your product or service. And then there's what's called the display network. And the display network is I think it's over 2 million websites that display what's called Google AdSense. And that's what publishers will put on their website to try to make money. And then advertisers like us can target those websites, show ads, and try to drive leads and sales. Well, there's obviously a big difference between somebody actually searching for your product versus the display network, which is more what we call interruption marketing. So if I'm online, I'm a runner, I might be on a website learning about how to improve my marathon times. So I might be reading an article on some good training to get faster for the marathon. Clearly, if I'm a runner, I would be interested in running shoes. So you might have if you sell shoes, you might have a nice banner ad targeting someone like me who is a runner. So the display network can work, but at the same time, I'm on that site trying to improve my running, trying to get some information. I'm not really looking to buy shoes right now. So your ad needs to interrupt me what I'm doing and then steer me away from what I'm doing to now go learn about your product or your service. Versus if I actually need shoes and I go to google.com and type in, best shoes for marathon running, now I'm in the mindset of, I actually need this product, or I'm typing in that I need a service. That's a much different mindset, and the ads are likely going to be, you're going to have different ad copy, maybe even different offers for the search network versus the display network. So with that in mind, you likely not only need different ad copy, you'll likely need different targeting for those different networks. And if you're going to have different offers, different ad copy, you're going to need different landing pages as well. And the problem is, if you're familiar with Google AdWords, you already know this. Google tries to get advertisers to advertise on both networks at the same time, because from Google's perspective, that is the best case scenario, especially if you don't even know you're doing that, because you're going to likely spend a lot of money and not even realize that you're spending that money on different networks, and the results are going to vary dramatically from search network versus display network. So the solution's pretty straightforward. I'm not saying search is better than display. I've seen great results with display campaigns, but the key here, and the key takeaway, is you want to create unique campaigns for the search network and a separate, completely separate campaign for the display network. So you'll use search network only or use display network only. There's this other option, display network or search network with display select. I do not recommend that, because then you're mixing the networks up. And again, you really should be using very specific targeting, very specific ads, and likely even different landing pages. Okay, hopefully that was clear. I don't see any questions about that. Pretty straightforward. It's very simple to fix this problem, but unfortunately I do see this mistake popping up over and over. All right, mistake number 2 is wrong keyword match types. And again, this is Google AdWords just trying to make as much money as possible. By default, what they do is if you add a keyword to your account, by default, it's going to be what's called broad match. And if you're not familiar with match types, you might think that you're putting in a keyword and your ads are only going to show for that keyword. That's actually not even close to what's happening in reality. So here's how match types work if you're not familiar. This is an example. Let's say you have a day spa. You might target NYC day spa as a keyword, and that is exact match. That means someone has to go to Google and actually type in NYC day spa or a very close variant of that. And this is actually a recent change. Exact match is no longer even exact match. Google will incorporate misspellings and whatever they consider to be a close variant. Luckily, exact match is pretty close to exact, but it's no longer really exact, unfortunately. So the example there would be NYC day spa. Your ad will show. And then there's something called phrase match. I'm using quotes here to show that that's phrase match. That means someone needs to search with that phrase in the search. So an example here would be best NYC day spa. Your ads will show for that search. So you'll even though you're targeting just NYC day spa, if you're using phrase match, your ads will also show up for best NYC day spa, because NYC day spa, that phrase is within that search. And last but not least is broad match, which again, by default, that's what your keyword will be. But your ad would actually show up, it could show up for NYC spa license, because that's related. It's in the ballpark as far as being related to NYC day spa, and that a day spa would need NYC spa license. So Google could show your ad for that search, even though someone searching that is definitely not looking to schedule an appointment with a day spa. That's actually somebody probably looking to start their own day spa, or needs to renew their license, or they're doing research as more of a business owner versus someone who's looking to schedule an appointment and actually become a customer. So the solution here, what I generally recommend is to stick with phrase match and exact match, especially when you're first launching a campaign. excuse me, exact match is pretty limiting. That's the problem with it. So that's why I would say when you're first starting out, testing those testing with phrase match keywords in your campaign can give you the most reach. So you won't be limiting your campaigns so much. You'll get in front of more prospective customers. And then there's also something called modified broad match, or broad match modified. And that's a form of broad match where you put a plus sign in front of the word. And that tells Google, you know, I'm fine with you showing my ads for different keywords, but the word that I put a plus sign in before needs to be in the search. So if I put a plus sign before day and a plus sign before spa, then day spa those words have to be in the search, or else Google can't show your ads. So this is a safer way to expand your reach and try to find additional keywords. But if you do that, and even when you're using phrase and exact match, you absolutely need to be using what are called negative keywords. And negative keywords tell Google, I don't want my ad to show if this keyword or this word or this phrase is in the search. So an example, we'll actually get to examples in this next mistake, because that is mistake number 3. Believe it or not, I review a lot of campaigns that don't have any negative keywords in them. And the problem is the ads are definitely showing for a lot of irrelevant searches. So again, negative keywords just prevent your ads from showing for any words that would be a trigger that it's an irrelevant search. And the example, using the same example, so I had the day spa license would be, you know, that's not a good search for a day spa. That's more likely a business owner doing a search. So if that's the case, you would want to negative match on the word license, because anyone searching for some kind of spa license is not actually looking to schedule an appointment. So in this case, if you had that negative match for license and someone searched NYC spa license, you'd be in the clear. Your ad would not show up, and you wouldn't risk getting that impression, and you wouldn't risk anyone clicking on that ad, in which case that would just be a complete waste of money. So a solution, this is an ongoing thing, but especially when you're first starting out, you want to avoid wasting money in that initial testing phase. So you want to brainstorm any, what I call obvious negative keywords. And then on an ongoing basis, you can use what's called the search terms report. And that's an excellent report in Google that actually shows you the real search phrase that triggered your ads. So rather than just looking at the keywords you put into Google to target, you use the search terms report to tell you what are the actual phrases where your ads are showing up, and which of those phrases are driving leads, or which ones are just completely wasting your money. Sorry, I see a couple questions coming in here. Ruth said, do you have to wait until your ad runs to find the different negative keywords to use? So no, you basically want to use both approaches here. In the beginning, when you're doing your keyword research, you can find negative keywords. So just using Google's keyword planner tool, you when you're doing your research to find keywords to target, you'll likely come across some related keywords. So Google's telling you what's related. You go through that list, and you'll likely see something like, let's say it's a dentist. So a very common thing that will pop up will be dental schools, because that's obviously related to dentist type keywords. People search for dental schools. And if you see that as a related search, you absolutely want to pull that out, add it to a list that you just keep compiling more and more negative keyword lists. And then when I say obvious negative keywords, it's more obvious the more experience you get, but schools is one of those that I would consider obvious. So definitely think about what, and that's actually on the next slide. So what can go wrong? Oh, it's not on the next slide. What can go wrong with a particular search and make that person unqualified? Well, if they were in school just doing research on something they're studying, then that would not be a qualified lead. And what would that person be searching? So start putting yourself in the shoes of someone who's not qualified and think about what would they search, and that can get you thinking about more negative keywords to add to the account before you launch it. And in addition to that, doing the keyword research and seeing what's related to your target keywords, and then pulling out those keywords that you definitely want to block. John had a great question. Will you get a copy of these slides? And yes, you will. You get a copy of the slides as well as the recording. All right, mistake number 4 is not segmenting by device. So again, Google wants to make as much money as possible. So by default, when you launch a campaign, Google's going to target all devices by default. And by all devices, I mean mobile, tablets, and computers. Now the problem with that, and if you think about your own behavior, is that you probably behave a lot differently depending on which device you're using. So personally, when let's say in a grocery store waiting in line, obviously I'm not at a laptop, so I'll have my mobile phone just killing time. I might be doing a little bit more research and be in that research mindset. And then if I actually want to, let's say, purchase a pair of shoes, I don't tend to go on my mobile phone for that. I'll tend to actually sit down at a computer and make those buying decisions and take buying actions on a computer. And that's definitely a broad generalization. And in certain industries, there are certainly a lot of people buying on their mobile phones, but you do want to be mindful of the fact that, generally speaking, people behave differently depending on what device they're using. The other big issue, we come across this a lot, is websites will be targeting all devices, and then when you go to the site on your mobile phone, it's actually not mobile friendly or mobile optimized. So it's just a terrible user experience, and that's why you'll see when you run the reports that no one is converting on mobile devices because no one can even use the site effectively on their mobile device. And if you're not sure, you can use this link here. Again, you'll get a copy of these slides, and you can just click right on that link if you don't want to write that down. All right, so unless your website's mobile friendly, so that's certainly the first check you want to do. And if it's not mobile friendly, you definitely want to be blocking mobile devices in your ads because likely you're not going to get those prospects to convert. They're going to have a negative experience with your website. So you can set your bid modifier, and this is in the devices section of Google AdWords. You set it to -100%, which tells Google you are essentially going to block mobile devices. So your ads will only show to computers and tablets. And if you, for some reason, your site does not load and function correctly on a tablet, you can also block tablets as well. Now, the long-term solution is to actually create mobile, tablet, and computer optimized landing pages. You can do that with one page using what's called a responsive web page. And if you have a WordPress site, there are a lot of responsive themes out there. And basically all that means is if you go to the site on a computer, it loads up, it spans the size of the window, functions properly. Then if you go on a smaller mobile device, the page automatically redesigns itself, responds to that smaller screen size, and now functions properly on a mobile, and likewise with tablets. So that's the ideal scenario. You want to create that mobile responsive landing page, and then take that a step further. If there are pages after that landing page, you want to make sure those are optimized for that device as well. And that's obviously critical for e-commerce. If people are shopping on their mobile phone, they click on an ad, go to that landing page, and that looks and functions properly, but then they try to check out. That certainly happened to me personally. I've wanted to buy something, you click add to cart, but then you realize that checkout process is not really mobile friendly, and you abandon that purchase. And then before I move on, this isn't just relevant for e-commerce. For lead gen campaigns, think about how people use their mobile devices. And the great thing about doing ads to mobile devices is they're literally on their phone. So they click an ad, they get to your landing page. You can have big buttons, and they're click to call buttons, and that can be an excellent call to action on a mobile landing page. But then you obviously wouldn't want to have that on your computer landing page, because if someone's on their computer, you can't click and call. So you want to think through even the different ways in which you would want to present the call to action for the different devices. All right, mistake number 5 is targeting the wrong keywords. And to understand this, you need to understand there are really 2 distinct types of keywords, what are called research intent and buying intent keywords. And there's no tool out there that will tell you what the keyword is. You really just have to put yourself in the prospect's shoes and think about, what really is the intent behind someone searching for each of the keywords that you want to target. And it's really a sliding scale. It's not really black and white. Let's say on the left is research intent, and on the right is buying intent. Every keyword falls somewhere in that scale. It's either more research intent or it's more buying intent. And think about, what are the different scenarios where someone would be searching that keyword, and is it more likely that people are searching to make purchases or schedule appointments, or is it more likely the case that people are a little higher in the sales funnel, doing more research, not really ready to pull the trigger? And the problem is, if you're targeting a lot of more research intent type keywords, those obviously don't convert as well as the buying intent keywords. If you target people who are further down the sales funnel, they've already done their research, they're just looking to purchase or schedule that appointment, those are going to have the highest conversion rates. So if you're targeting a lot of research intent keywords, you're going to tend to have a low conversion rate and likely be skewing your cost per lead, cost per sale higher than it needs to be. So you want to ask yourself, what else could someone be searching for when they're using this keyword? So obviously, you're going to be biased when you're doing your keyword research, and you're going to think of all the ways people could be searching for your product or service. That's just how our brains work. So you want to combat that and think about what else, and really do some serious brainstorming on what else could people actually be searching other than your particular product or service. And if you do that brainstorm and you're finding there are lots of other things that people could be searching for, that's more likely a research intent type keyword. Another trick is to do that search in Google and then look at the organic results. So Google, the way their algorithm works, this is a great shortcut because Google's algorithm is trained over time based on machine learning to figure out what people are actually looking for every single keyword. So if you put that keyword in to Google, click search, ideally do this in like an incognito window so your previous search history doesn't skew the results. Do that search and then look at all the organic results to see if Google's algorithm thinks that's more of a buying intent keyword or a research intent keyword. And you know that because if Google's ranking pages high that are more informational, like how-tos and guides, then that's because Google has figured out when people search that keyword, they're looking for information. But if on the flip side, you do that search and Google is showing a lot of product pages or service-oriented pages, then that's going to be more of a buying intent keyword. And ultimately, the recommendation here, especially when you're just starting out, you want to focus more on those buying intent keywords. That's going to give you the highest likelihood of a positive return on investment with the campaign. And then there are ways to target research intent keywords and basically expand your campaign, widen the funnel. Generally, you're going to lead with more information, and it's more of a lead gen campaign versus going straight at the sale. That's kind of the distinction. When it's buying intent, you can go straight for the sale. If it's a research intent keyword, it's more geared towards lead gen, provide them some information, and then collect an email address and follow up to get the sale. All right, mistake number 6 is missing your keyword in the ad copy. There's 2 critical points here. First of all, Google is going to bold the keyword in your ad copy in the search results, so that's going to make the ad stand out a little bit more. And ultimately, the prospect who's doing that search, they're typing in the words that are fresh in their mind. It's what they're looking for. So if you match that, that's basically the prospect seeing exactly what they're looking for, and that's going to lead to higher click-through rates. So more people are going to click on your ad if you put the keyword in the ad copy, and then excuse me, Google's going to bold it. People are going to see that ad and say, hey, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So that tends to lead to higher click-through rates. And you might not be aware of this, but higher click-through rates will give you a higher quality score. And a quality score is something that Google AdWords uses to grade your account. And that's it's highly skewed. The way they score, it's skewed based on click-through rates. So if you have very strong click-through rates versus your competition, you will tend to have high quality scores. And intuitively, that should make sense because Google is trying to make the most money, and it's in their best interest to show ads that get clicked the most versus showing ads that don't get clicked very often. They're just not going to make any money if they do that. So they basically skew their search results, their ad search results, based on the click-through rates. So they're going to show those ads that get those high click-through rates, so they make the most money. So what happens then based on their ad rank formula. Their ad rank formula is your bid multiplied by your quality score. So very simple example here would be, let's say you're bidding $1 and you have a quality score of 10. So that would be the highest you can have. The quality score goes from 0 to 10. Your ad rank then would be 10. So 10 times 1 is 10. And let's say your competitor has a quality score of 5. So for them to, and let's say they're bidding $1 as well. So their ad rank would only be 5. You would have a 10. So you would be ranked number 1. For them to actually outrank you, they have to bid over $2. So you'll stay ranked ahead of that competitor, only bidding $1. And for them to actually jump ahead of you, they would have to be bidding over $2, so over double what you're bidding. So as you can see with that very simple example, quality score is can be a huge player in your return on investment from Google AdWords. So you can actually pay a lot less than your competitors and maintain very strong ad positions if you have a high quality score. And on the flip side, if you have a low quality score, which basically means you're getting, you have a low click-through rate. There are other factors. There's click-through rate, there's ad relevance and landing page. But at the end of the day, click-through rate's the biggest factor. So if you have low click-through rates and a low quality score, then you're going to have to bid a heck of a lot more than your competitors to get that those top placements. So the solution here, first is you need to structure your campaign correctly. I didn't create this as a separate mistake, but a separate related mistake is that a lot of accounts that we review have just one ad group and then tons of unrelated keywords in that ad group. And the problem is you can't match the ad copy to the different keywords when you have a very unorganized account like that. So the first step is to group your keywords into similar phrases, or group your keywords that are similar phrases into different ad groups. And then from there, that allows you to match the ads to the phrases of those keywords. So that allows you to have very relevant ads matching the keywords. And then over time, I want to encourage split testing different ad copy with the goal of increasing your click-through rate or CTR. And if I'm skipping your questions, it just means I'm going to circle back to it in the live Q&A. I want to make sure we get through all the mistakes. All right, mistake number 7 is having a landing page that is not congruent. And basically, the mistake here is that your ads are essentially making a promise to the prospect. So the prospect is doing a search. They're looking at the different advertisers, seeing what is a good fit for them. And they're clicking on the ad that basically resonates with them. And it probably made a promise. It probably said that they had the product that they're looking for, it has the service they're looking for, maybe a special offer, some kind of guarantee. And then if you click on that ad and then you go to a page that doesn't actually reiterate what was just promised, then that's what I mean by not having a congruent landing page. You get to this page, it doesn't have the same message as the ad. Most likely, those visitors are just going to click the back button and they're going to go click on one of the competing ads. So a classic example is promising a discount in the ad. I see this a lot. It might say, get 20% off. You have that ad, sounds great, might even be getting a really good click-through rate. But then when you click on it, you go to the landing page, you don't actually see that same discount. When that happens, think about that from the prospect's shoes. That prospect is going to be confused, probably think that they just got some kind of bait and switch here. Maybe they clicked on the wrong ad accidentally. Ultimately, they're going to think that they're on the wrong page. They're going to click back and go to another company's website. So the solution, pretty straightforward. But again, it starts with organizing your keywords. So I definitely want that to be a key takeaway here. Organize your keywords into similar phrases and put the similar phrases in different ad groups. And then make sure that your offers in the ad is then being matched on the landing page. And that's the next bullet. So just match that landing page to the ad copy so that everything is congruent. So you want to have a congruency from the keyword, so that that phrase that they searched, they're getting a congruent ad that basically matches that same phrase. So that relates to the previous mistake. So matching the keyword in the ad copy, and then again matching that keyword to the landing page so that that prospect knows they're on the right page. And then if you have different offers, it's critical to match the offer that you're presenting in the ad onto the landing page. Don't another example that just comes to mind is free shipping. So that's a big one with e-commerce businesses. You'll list free shipping. That sounds great in the ad. That can increase click-through rates. But then when you go to the site, free shipping actually isn't mentioned until, let's say, you add something in the cart and you're on the checkout page. That's how some sites I've seen that happen. Or it might say free shipping way up at the top in the header, but it's very small font and no one actually will see it. Then that's another example where in your mind, you've been to the site 100 times, you know it says free shipping, but a new visitor will actually miss that and they won't think that it's a congruent message. It kind of looks like a bait and switch there. They just clicked on that, they wanted free shipping, and now it's kind of buried on the page. All right, mistake number 8 is no compelling offer. And what I highly recommend everyone do this. So if you're advertising, or if you're not yet as well, search for your target keywords. Go to Google. Again, use the incognito window. Just search your keywords. Take a look at what the advertisers are currently offering. And then make a note of which advertiser has the best offer. And maybe there's multiple offers being presented that all look good. And this is not a trick question. Which ad do you think will get the most clicks? Obviously, it's the advertiser with the best offer. And everyone on the line is thinking that they have the best product or the best service. That's what we all think. And maybe it might even be true. But at the end of the day, when a prospect is searching, they are most likely going to click on the most compelling offer. And again, just going back to what I mentioned earlier, how much click-through rate plays a role. The advertiser that has that highest click-through rate is going to have the best quality score, and they're going to pay less to be ranked the highest. So it's really, really important. You're at a big disadvantage in AdWords if you have a weak offer versus your competition. And it's all relative. So if you do a search and you see advertisers and they just don't have very good offers, then that's a great opportunity for you. It's basically a low bar. You could come in with not a very compelling offer, but good enough. If it's better than the competition, you'll likely get the highest click-through rate and you'll get the higher quality score. So at the end of the day, you need to find a way to have a better offer than your competitors. And you don't have to compete on price. I know that's what everyone's thinking. Oh, I need to go in there and show that I'm the lowest priced product or service. That's not true. You can just be more creative with writing your ads and presenting an offer. You can throw in additional products or services as bonuses, or emphasize the fact that your service actually comes with more. You're providing more value. That would be a better offer. You can use a stronger guarantee. If maybe you notice nobody's advertising any type of guarantee, that could be a great way to stand out. And you can also you'll notice that a lot of advertisers will be hitting on similar benefits, or maybe you're in a market where they're kind of missing the mark with their ads and they're not emphasizing benefits. Then you can come in there and it would be a better offer to just emphasize in your ads the actual benefit of using your product or service versus the competition. All right, mistake number 9 is missing ad extensions. They're basically, think about this from Google's perspective. Google's continuously adding these ad extensions. These are basically extensions to your typical text ad in Google, and it makes your ad a little bit bigger. It makes it stand out. The reason Google's doing that is because they are finding, based on all the data that they're collecting, the ads with ad extensions are getting higher click-through rates. They obviously would not be adding all of these little bells and whistles to their ads if it wasn't generating them more money. And the way they make more money is with people clicking on their ads. So studies have shown ads with ad extensions get higher click-through rates. That should be pretty obvious. And then Google took that a step further to basically strong-arm advertisers to start using all of the ad extensions. It's important to note that ad extensions are included when determining your quality score. So you're basically at a disadvantage if you don't use ad extensions. That's the key takeaway. And again, higher click-through rate means higher quality score, which means lower cost per clicks. So you want to create all of the appropriate ad extensions. I'll load up the ones that I recommend. These are not always appropriate. It does depend on your business and how your website is set up. First one is site links. Those are additional links that you can put in your ad. It goes underneath your standard text ad. You can have, I think it's up to 4 additional what are called site links, and it's just it makes your ad bigger. And rather than having just the headlines being clickable, now you have 4 additional areas that a prospect could click and head over to your website. So that's obviously a good thing. Makes your ad stand out. Higher likelihood that you'll get clicks. Location extension is it's not really relevant for e-commerce businesses. It's more for brick and mortar businesses where you have an office or a store. You can show the location of your business, and that's going to again make your ad bigger. And it also helps show prospects where you're located, so they're more confident that you are a good solution for them because you're in their neighborhood or in driving distance. Call extension just adds a phone number, so it makes it easy for people to call you. Call out is basically bullet points that you can add to your ads. So you can add more benefits. You can re-emphasize the offers that you're making in the call outs. Structured snippet, that's like a list that you can add. And again, all these are going to be underneath the standard text ad that you create in AdWords. And underneath that, you can have a structured snippet, which is just a list of really anything, but a classic example would be listing the brands that you sell, or for a dentist, listing the different services or procedures that you offer. A review extension is a third-party review. So that would be if you were in the press and maybe a local newspaper wrote an article about you, that's a third-party review. You can link to that. If you have a positive score, like A or A plus for the Better Business Bureau, you can link to that. And that's basically just credibility. That certainly helps to show prospective customers that you're a legitimate business. That can increase click-through rates. And this last one is pretty new. It's the message extension, and it allows prospects to send you a text message. So right in the ad, this would obviously just be for mobile targeted ads. If they're on their mobile phone, they see your ad, and there would be a button to text the business, for example, to schedule an appointment, or if they just have questions, basically a way to get them engaged. And then obviously those text messages would go to your team, and now you've got a prospect engaged that you can hopefully get them on the phone, get them in the store. All right, Michelle, hopefully I just clarified what are ad extensions. These are extensions of the standard text ad. So they make your ad a little bit bigger. All right, mistake number 10 is no conversion tracking. This is basically the mother of all mistakes. And if you're currently advertising and you don't have conversion tracking on, I would just recommend you pause ads immediately. And if you are going to launch ads, do not launch them until you get this set up. So this is a famous quote from Peter Drucker: if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And that's absolutely true with Google AdWords. There's also that famous quote, I think it's John Wanamaker said, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The problem is I don't know which half. I always laugh at that quote because with Google AdWords, that doesn't even make sense. You can absolutely tell if any part of your advertising is just wasting money, as long as you have conversion tracking set up. So once you have that set up, it's going to tell you what's working, and then you can reinvest in those campaigns or those keywords, those ads. It's also going to tell you what's not working, so you can, quote, trim the fat, or just pause keywords that are not driving sales or leads, pause entire campaigns. This is one of the fastest ways to turn a campaign around. I actually wrote a case study recently that we published on our blog about a business that was managing their ads, and they had conversion tracking, but they didn't have revenue data in their conversion tracking. And once we added that level of conversion tracking, we were able to reduce their ad spend while increasing the revenue that they were generating from the ad campaign. So the key here, key takeaway, is just to add all the available AdWords tracking. So if you have web forms on your site, like a contact form, schedule an appointment, request a demo, you want to make sure you are tracking those forms. If you have an e-commerce business and people make purchases, then you want to make sure you have that revenue data flowing into AdWords. You can track phone calls from the website. You can also track phone calls from the ads, from the call extensions. Then more recently, they added offline call import. So the way that works is if you're driving a lot of leads from phone calls and you're collecting the caller ID and you're making a note of the day and time when that call came in and the duration of that call, then let's say you got 10 phone calls last month and 5 of them turned into sales, and you know how much revenue was generated for each of those sales. You can actually go into AdWords, import that call data, as long as you have that caller ID, the duration of the call and the date and time, and then you can also add in the revenue of those calls. Google will match that data back to the keyword in the ad that was actually clicked on before that call was placed, and now you'll get that offline revenue back into Google AdWords. And the same thing can be done with web forms. And with web forms, you need a little bit of help from your web developer, because you have to get the GCLID variable. So every click on an ad generates a unique GCLID. Your web developer has to get that into your forms so that your web form sends the GCLID to your team. And let's say that was a form to request a quote. And let's say last month you had 10 quote requests, 5 of those turned into actual sales. With revenue data, you can then import those unique GCLIDs with the revenue data back into Google AdWords. AdWords matches that up, and now you've got that those offline sales being tracked in Google AdWords, and you can now see which keywords, which ads are actually driving revenue, and which are potentially just driving a lot of leads that aren't actually closing. All right, here's a quick recap. I know we're getting close on time here. I'm just going to list these out and get to Q&A here. So special offer before Q&A. It's 3 of our more in-depth training courses: how to set up a profitable Google AdWords campaign, how to optimize a Google AdWords campaign, and an introduction to Google Analytics, and how to use that to measure different marketing channels. If you go to mainstreetroi.com/training, you'll see those 3 courses are sold separately for $97. So it's a total value of $291, and you'll get everything for just $97 by going to mainstreetroi.com/AdWords bundle. And I've got that link on the final slide here. And if you're not interested in training, you don't want to do it yourself, I totally understand that. And for everyone that's not interested in training, the special offer is a free AdWords consultation. And I'm just going to show a poll here. If you are interested in that, just click yes. And I see a lot of people are still voting here. Let me just give it 5 more seconds here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm going to close that out. If for some reason you weren't able to click on yes in time, you can always just shoot an email to us or post in the Q&A box. All right. Link for that bundle, Dave, is on this slide. Upper left-hand corner, you can see special offer, mainstreetroi.com/AdWords bundle. That's all one word. All right, let me scroll up. I know I missed a bunch of questions here. Just wanted to make sure we got through it all. Randia said, do you have to put the minus in front of the keyword when you're putting it in the negative keyword option in Google? No, you don't. Excuse me. That's actually old formatting. And I'm showing my age. I'm actually not that old, but in Google AdWords years, it's like dog years. I'm ancient at this point. When I started, you did have to put negative. That's how you told Google that was a negative keyword. Now Google has a separate section in Google AdWords where you add your negative keywords. So you just add them in like normal. You don't have to put the minus. That's just, in my brain, I still do that just to note that it's a negative. And Vicky, similar question here. Do you bracket negative keywords phrases? So you can have negative phrase match, negative exact match, and negative broad match, and they function the same way as targeting those keywords. So negative exact is you're just negativing, if that's a word, I don't think it is. You're just blocking the exact phrase. If you do negative phrase match, you're blocking any search that includes that phrase. And then if you just have a word like license, you can just negative license. That's going to negative any word that includes, any search that includes that word license. Let's see here. Going through these questions. Some of these are a little bit longer. Juliet said, if someone searches for life insurance and comes to our site, but we only sell other types of insurances, if I made that term negative, would it affect my other insurance search terms? That's a great example. So if you sell insurance, but you do not sell life insurance, you would want to negative match life. In that way, or maybe just negative match the phrase life insurance. You'd want to take a look at your search terms report, and that would tell you, what are the different versions or variations of life insurance that people are searching, and you'd likely want to negative match all of those. And that would not affect your other search terms. If you did a negative match on life insurance exact match, this is related to what we just talked about, that would only block your ads if someone searched life insurance, not any other insurance. James asked, is it ever advisable to use content marketing blogs targeted to research queries? So I believe you're asking if you would want to advertise to a blog. Generally, my answer would be no. But with that said, there is definitely a strategy to target research intent keywords, send them to an informational page. I generally would not have them just go to my blog page. I'd have a dedicated landing page that's informational, but basically it's an informational sales page, kind of like an infomercial. It's going to start off with a big headline that matches what they just searched for, whatever research, how-to type keyword. It's going to address that question right away, make sure it's congruent, and then as seamlessly as possible transition into why your product or service is the best solution for whatever problem they would have if they were doing that research. Jeanette, I get this question every time. What is your opinion on using competitor names as keywords? For example, your McDonald's, and one might think, okay, keywords. Do you also add Burger King, Wendy's, so that you come as alternatives? The short answer is yes. Definitely look into what are considered conquest type keywords. So going after your competitors' names. But just don't be surprised if those don't generate much for you. In some cases, it can be great. In some markets, especially if your competitors are very established, what can happen is people will search for their name, and they ultimately want to go to that competitor's website. So you're going to get a very low click-through rate. If you have a very low click-through rate, you're going to have a very low quality score, and eventually Google is going to make you pay a lot of money to even have your ads showing for those keywords. So just kind of a heads up, that's likely to happen in certain markets, but it doesn't hurt to try. So So certainly give it a shot. It'll either work or it won't, and then you can just move on. Pui, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, asked, do you offer this service to decide which is buyer intent versus research intent? So we do offer services as far as Google AdWords setup as well as management, in which case we would handle the keyword research to find what we believe are those buying intent keywords. And then on the management side, once the ads are live, we would be reviewing the search terms reports and be filtering out anything that is more research intent or just not converting. Okay, I know we're over. I'm going to try to get through all these. Grace asked, does Amazon have the same type of system where they rank your account with click-through rate? That's a great question. I do not know what Amazon's ad platform is using as far as grading click-through rate. Yeah, I do not know. I would have to look into that. Pui asked how to check the quality scores. That's just right in your account. Go to the keywords section, and you can add a column. If it's not already showing for you, you can display a column for quality score, and then you'll see the quality score for all of your keywords. Kathy asked, what are your top 3 tips for increasing quality scores? Well, basically, I mentioned there are 3 elements. There's ad relevancy, which is how relevant your ad is to the keyword. My tip there is to literally add your keyword to the ad copy. Then there is landing page experience. My experience with that, no pun intended, is that it's not usually a problem if you have, your page is congruent. You're sending people to the right page on your site. As long as you're not having any technical issues with a slow loading page. But if you are, then you obviously want to address that. And then the third factor is the most important. That's your click-through rate, in which case you need to be testing different ad copy, testing different offers in your ad to drive up that click-through rate. Raymond asked, what type of settings, adjustments do you make to split test ad copy? So there's different ways to split test. One way is in your ad group, you can, I generally have the setting to rotate evenly. That's one option, and it can rotate evenly indefinitely, in which case you put 2 or more different ad variations in there, and then you need to be reviewing that on a consistent basis, and then you just pause the poor performing ad and then rotate a new ad. There are other settings in AdWords where you can split test. You can rotate evenly for, I think, 90 days, and then it will automatically show the best ad based on click-through rate, or I believe you can do it based on conversions. And then there's a third option, or maybe there's more at this point, but there's another option where you don't rotate it evenly. You just tell Google, hey, optimize my ads based on which ones get clicked the most. I generally don't use that. I recommend doing the rotate evenly to give it a fair shot. I just find, in my experience, Google's pretty trigger happy, and they'll start favoring one ad over another very, very quickly. And I guess thinking about that out loud, it makes a lot of sense for them to not take any chances. They will quickly show which ad is going to get clicked more so that they make the most money. Let's see here. Rose, if you could clarify your question, I don't totally understand that one. James asked, with conversion tracking, can you talk about attribution? If you have a multiple touch ad strategy, how do I understand the entire system? So that gets a little bit more complicated when you start getting into attribution, but AdWords, excuse me, it's important to note that AdWords is first click attribution. What that means is if I clicked on your ad yesterday and then I went back to your site today and completed the form or called you, then in AdWords, you would see a conversion showing up for yesterday's date, because that's the date that I actually clicked on the ad. Versus Google Analytics defaults to what's called last click attribution. And this is why you see a lot of discrepancies with AdWords versus Google Analytics. And that's because if I clicked on your ads yesterday, and then today I could only remember your business name, so I Google your business name, clicked on your organic listing, went to your site, and completed your contact form, then Google Analytics is going to show me as an organic conversion, and Google AdWords is going to show me as a paid AdWords conversion yesterday, and Analytics will show me as an organic conversion today. And that's because my first click was on AdWords yesterday, and it was on an AdWords ad, and then today, the last thing I did was actually an organic search, and Analytics would consider that as the last click was an organic search, so I'm an organic lead that came in. And answer your question, James, as far as viewing the full picture, you do want to look at your AdWords data, then you want to look at your analytics data, and then analytics actually has a way to toggle between first click, last click, and other attribution models. And they will also show you a nice visualization of the path. So it would show you you're getting leads that start with PPC clicks, and then they're finding that after that, a lot of them get email marketing follow-up, and then a lot of those other ones then get a Facebook ad, and then they actually convert, and that would show you those 3 steps. All right, I'm getting, I think, too many questions to get through. I thought I was going to be able to get through them all. Let me just take 2 more here. So Vicky asked a good question. Just technically speaking, should you track the page as a conversion, or should you add the script to the page to track? If you do both, do you count the conversion twice? So with AdWords, if you wanted to track a form, you would add the conversion to the thank you page that you get redirected to after completing the form. So that's how you would set that up. Melanie, as far as the training info, the link here is in the upper left-hand corner, mainstreetroi.com/AdWords bundle. That's where you can take a look at the 3 training courses. And let's see if I can just do one more here. Sorry, there's a lot there. This is actually a good one. We'll end on this one from Dave. Please clarify the purpose in manually inputting call tracking conversions into Google AdWords. So the purpose is, so for a long time, Google AdWords has allowed you to track form conversions and phone calls. But as a marketer, you don't know if those web form leads or phone calls actually turn into sales. And if you have a sales process that you get a phone call, let's just say it's a dentist's office, you get that phone call where they're going to schedule an appointment, and the appointment might be a couple weeks later. That patient comes in. It might be, let's say, just a free consultation. They're going to take a look. They're interested in implants. And some people are going to have the money and can afford it. Some people are not. So not every phone call is going to turn into a patient. So what you can do is actually track all of your phone calls, and then at the end of the month, take a look at who actually turned into a paying patient, and then look at when those phone calls came in, and then import that data into Google AdWords. And now you start to collect data on how many paying patients and how much revenue is being generated from the Google AdWords campaign. So you can now do that with phone calls using call imports, call import conversions, and you can do that with web forms, because some people will complete a form on your website to, let's say, request a demo, and then your sales team will present that demo later on and actually close that deal. You can then import those deals that were closed and the revenue data back into Google AdWords. And now, again, you start to have data on all of the keywords and campaigns and ads that are driving not only phone calls, not only demo requests, but which ones are actually driving sales and actual revenue. And that can be huge for optimizing a campaign. As an example, and then we'll wrap this up. We had a client that did not have that data, and then we added in the import data, and we found that some campaigns were driving a lot of quote requests, but those were just bad leads. They weren't turning into sales. So we were able to pause those campaigns and then allocate that budget to the campaigns that were not only driving leads, quote requests, but those quote requests were actually turning into real sales and real revenue. All right. With that, if you have any more questions after this, you can always shoot an email to info@mainstreetroi.com. I also want to encourage everyone to please fill out the survey at the end. You should get redirected automatically. And there's like 4 or 5 questions in order to get your feedback. And with that, we're going to wrap things up. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and then have a great Thanksgiving for everyone in the U.S. All right, take care.